The colony of Arden 6 always woke slowly, as though its fields and forests breathed in harmony with the humans who lived across its gentle hills. It was a quiet place, a peaceful corner of space surrounded by drifting amber clouds and the faint glow of the Trias Nebula. No one on Arden 6 ever expected history to notice them. And yet history, like violence, had a habit of arriving uninvited. Elias Ward was an ordinary man by every possible measure, and that was exactly why people trusted him. He grew crops, repaired old machinery, ran water filters, and smiled easily. He had a way of making others feel safe simply by existing. Even when tensions rose between the Galactic Empire and the fringe human colonies, Elias remained calm. "People only fight when they forget what it's like to live simply," he once said. His friends never forgot it. The Empire did. His wife, Mara, was different. The ordinary life she built around herself was deliberate, constructed, maintained with the same precision she applied to every part of her existence. Her movements were economical, her eyes sharp, her posture too perfect for a farmer's wife. She never talked about her past, and Elias never pushed her. He only knew that she loved him, cared for him, and chose him quietly, without ceremony, as though choosing peace had been her final rebellion against the universe. 4 years, they lived without disturbance. Mara tended their home, Elias tended the fields, and together they built a small, sturdy life. No one would have guessed that beneath the floorboards of their farmhouse, encased in carbon steel and locked behind a biometric seal, lay a relic of another life, a sniper rifle with a name etched into its barrel, a name most humans only whispered, Ghost Widow, but even that ancient weapon slept, untouched, forgotten, because Mara wanted to forget. Elias never asked where it came from. He only asked if she was happy. She always answered yes. The first sign of trouble arrived as a shimmering light above the horizon, too steady to be natural, too silent to be friendly. Mara saw it hours before anyone else. She stood in the doorway, eyes narrowed at the sky's faint distortion. She didn't panic. She simply watched, memorizing its trajectory, its exhaust signature, the precise rhythm of its descent. She said nothing to Elias at first, because she hoped she was wrong. But Mara was never wrong. Elias found her standing outside after dusk, staring upward. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, warm and gentle. "Storm coming?" he asked light-heartedly. She didn't answer. Her silence made him follow her gaze, and only then did he see the faint, metallic sheen far above the clouds. "Empire," he whispered. Mara nodded. "A scout vessel. Low grade, but armed." Arden 6 was a tiny colony. It held no military bases, no strategic resources, and barely 5,000 civilians. There was no reason for the Empire to visit. But sometimes empires didn't need reasons. Sometimes they only needed boredom or blind arrogance. By morning, the ship descended fully, pressing its shadow across the colony's center square. The screams began immediately. Empire soldiers marched out in cold formation, their armor gleaming silver, their voices filtered through emotionless helmets. Their commander's insignia flashed red with each step, the sign of someone recently promoted, someone eager to prove themselves. Elias told Mara to stay inside. She told him nothing, but her eyes hardened, calculating, mapping every angle, every line of sight, every elevated position within range. Her fingers twitched, not in fear, but in familiar muscle memory. She forced them still. Elias didn't want trouble. He walked toward the soldiers, because he believed someone must show calm. As he passed her, he smiled softly and whispered, "It's just a misunderstanding. I'll talk to them." She placed a hand on his arm, stopped him for half a second. She wanted to tell him not to go. She wanted to explain why diplomacy never worked with people who came dressed in conquest. But she had spent years hiding the woman she once was, and hesitation cost her the moment. He walked into the colony square unarmed, palms raised. The other colonists watched from behind walls and corners, trembling. Elias spoke with steady clarity. "This is a civilian world. If you need supplies, we can share. If you need information, we'll provide it. But please keep your weapons down. There are children here." A soldier stepped forward, scanned Elias, and announced something in the Empire's clipped language. His words were meaningless to most of the colonists, but Mara had heard the tone before. Accusation, dismissal, the prelude to cruelty. The commander approached, tall, arrogant, posture rigid with self-importance. He barely looked at Elias. "You are in violation of Sovereign Expansion Protocol," he declared. His translator device rendered each word in a flat monotone. "Unauthorized human settlement within Empire-claimed radius sectors is punishable by immediate corrective action." Elias shook his head. "That's impossible. This region is neutral under." A shot interrupted him. No warning. No deliberation. No hesitation. A single bolt flashed, struck him in the chest, and slammed him to the ground. He exhaled a stunned sound, not quite pain, not quite disbelief. The colonists screamed. Mara didn't. She froze entirely, every muscle locked, her breath silent. The commander lowered his weapon as though nothing significant had occurred. "Violation corrected," he said. The Empire soldiers marched back to their vessel as if stepping over a fallen leaf. Elias lay motionless. The dust around him settled. Mara didn't move for several seconds. Her mind went quiet, not empty, but focused, like a blade honed to a perfect line. When the vessel lifted off, its engines rumbling through the air, she finally walked forward. She knelt beside Elias, touched his cooling hand, and stared at the wound with unreadable calm. The colonists cried around her, voices trembling, but she barely heard them. She whispered his name only once. That night, while the colony mourned, Mara walked home alone. She entered the house, closed the door, and stood in the dim light without breathing. Her hands moved with mechanical rhythm. She removed the rug, unlocked the floor hatch, and lifted the carbon steel case. Her fingerprint, iris, and pulse signature activated the seals. The case opened slowly with a hydraulic hiss. Inside lay the Ghost Widow. The sniper rifle's matte black plating absorbed the faint light. Its barrel, slightly longer than standard models, held micro-etched stabilizers. The name, Ghost Widow, gleamed faintly on the side. Elias had once seen the outline through the case and assumed it was old equipment. He had never asked about it. She never told him. Beside the rifle lay her old insignia, a single silver triangle streaked with black, symbol of the Human Silent Regiment. A unit disbanded decades ago. A unit whose operatives were known not by name, but by the impossible distances they could strike from. Mara had been the best of them. Humanity had never been known across the stars for its strength. Not for its ships, not for its weapons, not for its empires. But every species in the galaxy had always agreed on one thing: humans were persistent. Stubborn to the point of madness. Capable of turning fear into strategy, pain into unity, and grief into something far more dangerous. The week after Elias Ward's execution proved that truth more than any historical record. Mara Ward's lone vengeance strikes spread through human networks like wildfire. Every colony, every military outpost, every civilian channel repeated her impossible feats. They showed the precision of her shots, the distances she achieved, the cold silence of each kill. Humanity had seen snipers before. They had never seen that. Her actions pierced something deep within human civilization, the part that remembered centuries of being underestimated. A surge of old pride resurfaced, a memory of how far humanity had come. For centuries they had avoided war, avoided confrontation, avoided becoming what they once fought against. But neutrality had not protected Elias. And so neutrality crumbled. Human fleets began recalling reservists. Tactical analysts worked without sleep. Old alliances rekindled, and ancient codebooks were reopened. Colony after colony sent volunteers. Even those who had never touched a weapon stepped forward, because humanity wasn't preparing for war, they were preparing for justice. Mara knew none of this. She did not check human channels. She did not join councils or military meetings. She moved alone, as she had always done. And yet the human race moved behind her, shaped by the ripples she triggered, ripples she did not intend to create. Her next target was an Imperial relay station orbiting a barren moon. She approached it through the shadows of its radiation belts, using nothing more than a stolen maintenance pod that hid her heat signature. She abandoned the pod before final approach, drifting silently toward the station with nothing but a small thruster pack and her rifle sealed in vacuum casing. She landed on the exterior hull without alerting a single sensor, cut through the plating, and entered the station through a maintenance shaft. Inside, she moved like a whisper. The corridors were white, sterile, humming with the soft vibrations of distant machinery. Empire officers walked with arrogance, unaware of their impending fate. She climbed to the highest vantage point inside the station, where she could oversee the command deck from the shadows above. Her breathing slowed. Her heartbeat quieted. The Ghost Widow hummed faintly in recognition. The station commander stepped into view. He was one of the officers who had signed the authorization for corrective measures against human settlements. Mara fired once. The bolt burned through the air and struck the commander in the skull. He collapsed before the others heard the sound. Panic erupted. Mara had already fired again and again. Every officer attached to the anti-human directive fell within seconds, dropping to the pristine floor with precision the Empire could not comprehend. Surveillance footage captured her silhouette moving like a phantom, slipping back into the shaft, vanishing as quickly as she had arrived. When Empire investigators reviewed the footage, they realized her shots had come from angles no sniper could physically reach. The distances, the micro-adjustments, the split-second timing, none of it made sense. They accused humans of using experimental technology. They accused the Silent Regiment of being revived. They accused each other of incompetence, but the truth was simpler. Mara Ward was hunting them, and humanity was ready to follow. The Empire tightened its hold on outer sectors. More patrol fleets were launched. More officers armed themselves. And the new High Commander appointed to crush humanity was Admiral Carthos, a man whose loyalty to the Empire matched his hatred for unpredictability. Carthos reviewed every report personally. He studied the footage of the sniper kills, slowing the frames, scanning trajectories, demanding explanations. His officers scrambled to invent excuses, graphs, theories. Carthos dismissed them all. "One human is destabilizing my fleets," he growled. "Find her." But no tracker, no drone, no psychic mapper could locate Mara. She was always one step ahead. She infiltrated supply depots, disabling engines with surgical precision. She boarded cargo ships, eliminating only the officers responsible for the Empire's most cruel policies. She left soldiers alive, but terrified, spreading fear like wildfire. Rumors spread through Empire ranks about a human specter, a woman whose eyes were said to reflect death itself. They whispered that she could kill from beyond the horizon, that she could slip through vents like smoke, that she never missed. Fear gnawed at their confidence. Carthos despised fear. So he set a trap. A convoy of high-ranking Empire officials was scheduled to travel through the Daleks corridor, a narrow stretch of space that allowed no stealth approach. Carthos assigned 3 battleships, 6 escorts, and a web of scanning drones to guard them. Every route, every angle, every possible vantage point was locked down. Carthos believed even a myth could not penetrate such defenses. Mara arrived 3 hours early. She positioned herself on an asteroid cluster drifting just outside the corridor. She had calculated the Empire's scanning sweep patterns, analyzed their drone frequencies, memorized the angles of their shields. She lay prone across the cold rock, Ghost Widow steady against her shoulder. When the convoy entered the corridor, she saw him, Carthos himself, standing on the deck of the central flagship, surrounded by officers. The man who had mocked human grief. The man who called Elias's death necessary correction. Mara exhaled slowly. Her mind was clear. Her shot aligned, but before she fired, the Empire ships released a sudden burst of counter-scanning beams. They pierced the asteroid field, revealing her position. Alarms blared. The entire fleet turned toward her. Carthos smiled coldly. They had found her, but finding was not catching. Mara launched herself backward off the asteroid, just as it exploded under cannon fire. She drifted through debris, using it to mask her escape. She fired 3 shots mid-air, each one striking a scanner drone precisely at its core. Their detection grid collapsed. She fired again, disabling the engine stabilizer on one of the escorts. It spiraled out of formation, colliding with another. Carthos shouted orders. Chaos erupted. Mara landed on a fractured hull plate of drifting debris, steadied herself, and fired once more. The shot pierced the flagship's viewing deck shield and struck the officer standing beside Carthos. He fell instantly. Carthos froze, rage flaring across his face. He had underestimated her. The fleet scrambled, weapons firing in all directions, but she had already vanished into the shadow of the debris field. Her thrusters carried her silently into darkness. The Empire declared her an anomaly of unacceptable threat. But the more they tried to eliminate her, the more their officers died. Meanwhile, humanity had fully mobilized. Dozens of colonies sent ships toward the Imperial border. Human engineers modified old vessels with new shielding, new targeting systems, new stealth tech derived from abandoned research programs. Every mechanic, programmer, pilot, and medic worked day and night. Humanity was not preparing for survival, they were preparing for victory. The first major engagement occurred near the Tarsi's line, where a small human flotilla intercepted an Empire assault group. The Empire expected compliance. They received resistance. Human ships fought with coordinated ferocity, Tight formation discipline, rapid-fire adjustments, innovative evasion maneuvers. They won. The Empire did not expect humans to win. Their arrogance cracked. Carthos doubled the Empire's military presence, sending fleets to choke human sectors. He expected fear. He found Mara waiting. She infiltrated his forward operations base. She eliminated his navigation officers. She sabotaged his fuel lines. She left warning messages scratched into metal with the edge of her rifle, messages simple and devastating. You will answer for him. Carthos grew obsessed. He dedicated an entire division to tracking her. He studied her past, dug into classified human records, interrogated prisoners. Slowly, he uncovered her identity: Mara Ward, former Silent Regiment operative, retired after the last Human Empire conflict centuries ago. A legend. A ghost, and she was coming for him. Humanity engaged Empire forces across 3-star systems simultaneously. Mara moved between battlefields like a phantom. She took positions on drifting starship hulls, on abandoned mining platforms, on shattered moons. Her bullets always found the officers responsible for civilian casualties. Her presence inspired human soldiers to fight harder. She became a symbol. The Empire called her a monster. Humans called her hope. When Carthos realized humanity's momentum was becoming unstoppable, he initiated his final protocol: a full-scale retaliation against Earth. A fleet large enough to crush the birthplace of mankind. A fleet too large for Mara alone to stop. She didn't plan to stop it alone. For the first time, Mara approached a human fleet directly. She contacted the High Command with a simple message: send me to the heart of the Empire. End this. Her request was granted without question. She boarded a stealth corvette and flew toward the Imperial core, the seat of their military power, their political center, their greatest stronghold. Carthos had retreated there, confident that no human could reach him. He forgot that Mara was not a human. She was humanity's wrath-given form. The Imperial core was protected by an armada. Mara navigated through their formation with precision, using debris fields and sensor echoes to mask her approach. She landed her corvette on the surface of a shield generator tower, cut through layers of plating, and descended into the fortress world. She moved through corridors built for giants, past guards who never saw her coming. She eliminated only those necessary, every shot silent, efficient. She climbed to the central command spire, where Carthos awaited her atop his dreadnought. The final confrontation was silent. Carthos aimed a plasma rifle at her as she emerged. He fired. She dodged behind a pillar. Their weapons clashed in flashes of lethal light. He shouted insults, threats, curses, calling humans weak, calling Elias irrelevant. Mara never spoke. She moved with cold precision. She shot the rifle from his hands. She approached him calmly. He swung a blade. She dodged. The blade sliced the air where her face had been a moment before. She pressed the barrel of the Ghost Widow against his heart. For the first time, Carthos felt fear. This is for Elias Ward, she whispered. One shot. The commander of the Imperial military fell. The dreadnought's command network collapsed instantly. Human fleets surged forward and overtook the Imperial core. Empire officials panicked, broadcasting surrender signals. The Empire fractured, its leadership destroyed. Mara didn't stay to watch the fall. She ascended to the dreadnought's central data core, connected her rifle's auxiliary module, and fired into the heart of the Empire's control system. The blast triggered a cascading shutdown across thousands of ships. The war, in that moment, ended, humanity stood victorious. The Empire sued for peace, and Mara Ward, having completed her vengeance, disappeared before any reporter or official could find her. Some say she returned to Arden 6. Others say she wandered the stars, searching for something she lost the day Elias died. Humanity remembered her not as a myth, not as a monster, but as a reminder. Humans do not seek war. Humans do not strike first. But when something precious is taken from them, they do not forget, and they never, ever miss.